recommendation is to handle the core financials first. So we're talking about your GL and your AP. That's going to be the foundation of what you're going to be doing, and that needs to be all tackled at once. Because if you just have a few hundred fixed assets, you should be fine doing that as part of phase one. If you have 10,000 fixed assets, 12,000 fixed assets, you have a lot of construction in progress, for instance. If you're a senior living facility and you're going through a lot of growth, you probably have a lot of construction in progress. So in those situations, we would recommend be realistic with your time, be realistic with what you're undertaking with fixed assets, and make that a phase two approach. Also, if you want to do anything really specific with AP automation, like your accounts payable should be set up, your workflow rules should be set up. But if you want to bring in a full AP automation solution, whether it's Sage's native AP automation, or if you're bringing in something like, one of the third parties, again, get through the implementation, go live with your core financials, and then take a look at bringing in a third-party AP automation solution. Yes, absolutely, do not overshoot. Get it done right, then move on to other priorities. So something we're asked a lot is, what should we prioritize? And it varies from case to case, but what we find is there are four things that are always going to need to be part of any implementation that should be prioritized. And number one is getting the reporting in place. Kind of begin with the end in mind, especially if you have a lot of stakeholders who are going to be looking at reports. Number two, of course, obviously, what are those reports going to be coming out of? Building out your strong financials. Number three is integrations, especially in senior living, especially if you're trying to integrate with point-click care. You're going to be using our integration tool, of course. We want to make sure that the codes, the billing codes, are going to match your general ledger codes, so take a look at the integrations. The integration tool, we've been using, let's just say, this reporting tool for quite a number of years, and can Sage Intacct integrate with it? The answer might be yes, but you got to, at this point, ask yourself why. If you're upgrading your financials, does it make sense to use that reporting tool just because you've always used it? So even in many situations where we can say the answer is yes, we recommend take a look at integrating to the best solution, not the solution that you already have. Don't limit yourself into thinking, here's a tool we've been using, how do we integrate with it? Perhaps the answer is it can integrate, no problem, but do you still want to use that solution, especially once you see some of the capabilities that you're going to be getting from a new ERP solution. And then fourth is to think about AI, whether it's an automated close, whether it's going to be AP automation tools. Take a look at AI, because that's going to be a major part of any implementation these days. We get asked a lot about AI. What should they be looking out for? I think it's fair to say everybody understands it's important. It's going to be a factor in their implementation, but what should they know? What don't they know and they should know, kind of thing. And I think sometimes if you really step back and look at it, what are the things that you just wish you could do in an automated basis? Manual tasks that you're doing in your close process, for instance, you might not think of that as AI, but if you can automate that process, it absolutely is AI. If you close 1 month and Sage Intacct can learn from the way you closed in, let's just say, June, and apply that to July, that's exactly what AI is, and that's a great use of AI. So think about things that you want to automate. Obviously, the close process, perhaps your AP intake, perhaps there's repetitive tasks as far as report generation, manual tasks involved in report generation, I should say, if you're bringing in outside data, that you want to automate these processes. So just think of anything you're doing on a daily basis that, boy, I wish I didn't have to do this anymore. There probably is an AI solution that can assist with that, some of the built-in functionality within Sage Intacct. So those are the things you need to be thinking about. What do you want to automate? What would you like to remove yourself from doing and have these tools do for you? But at the same time, just don't go into the weeds. Don't try to do everything all at once. Pick some major tasks, pick some major things that you want to do, the closing the month, automating your AP intake, things like that. Some of the big rocks, so to speak. Don't try to take on everything all at once. One point that comes up all the time, of course, is what do you want to do with your chart of accounts? I think it's fair to say in most situations when an organization is taking a look at upgrading their ERP, one of the factors may be that they're finding that their chart of accounts is a mess and they want to clean it up, which is great. Another scenario we come across is where people say, well, you can't touch my chart of accounts. It's sacred. I understand how this works. You can't change this on me. All we ask is people be open to the possibility. You're going to get into what can be done in a new, especially if you have not upgraded in quite a long time. Dimensional capabilities within Sage Intacct is going to open up a lot of possibilities. If you, for instance, are a senior living facility and you have, let's just say, 10 different locations, and those 10 different locations all have 3 lines of care. Well, you could find as many as 30 chart of account codes that are doing the exact same thing. It could be for something as so basic as supplies or laundry, whatever the case may be. But you're multiplying this 30 times across 3 lines of care and 10 locations. It just doesn't make any sense. You can have one code that can handle all of that with the dimensional structure within Sage Intacct. So we just ask people to be open to reconfiguring their chart of accounts. I can't tell you how many times we've come across a client who said, I cannot change my chart of accounts. You're asking me to do too much. We showed them what this could look like. You take hundreds of pages, you reduce it down to 3, and suddenly they say it a little bit differently. Another factor that comes into play with reconfiguring your chart of accounts, especially as it relates to the dimensions. So again, let's just take the example, you have 8 different facilities, okay? It's going to be very varied in what the reports are going to look like, depending on who it is. So for instance, if we have our Palmerton location, and in Palmerton, you have somebody that needs dining, just needs to take a look at the reports related to dining. You have an operations person at Palmerton that needs to take a look at all the operations, and then you have the manager and head of that location needs to see everything. So those are 3 different reports right off the top of the bat, and there's probably many more that you would have. So you set up the dimension structures in Sage Intacct, and again, this comes down to changing your chart of accounts so that you're not trying to figure out, here's the line of codes that the dining manager needs, here's the line of codes that the operations manager needs. It's just a simple matter of turning on a dimension on and off, or turning on a code on and off, and all of a sudden your reports are reconfigured, your dashboards, I should say even, are reconfigured for what that one individual needs to take a look at, print the reports. They can self-service the reports, or they can be sent to them, but whatever the case may be, it really can only be done in a very simple, clean manner if you're open to changing your chart of accounts rather than having a laundry list of codes that one particular person needs to take a look at. It's just very easily configured, and it's updated as you go along. As you're getting ready for an implementation, as you're even going through the evaluation process of an implementation, you're going to want to talk to organizations, your peers. You're going to want to take a look at organizations that, number one, you're probably talking to for best practices in things unrelated to finance anyway, or maybe related to finance. But if you're mirroring another organization, it could be you're part of the same organization, or there's just a common approach to doing things. I'm sure you have peers in your industry, in your fellow organizations that you rely on for their advice. What are they doing? They may be using Sage Intacct themselves. How are they using it? What would you like to replicate? What would you like to perhaps stay away from doing? So get advice from your peers, number one. And then number 2 is just talk to your internal stakeholders. Your AP clerk could have a lot of thoughts that perhaps may not have dawned on you, for instance. The CEO of the organization, or department managers, department heads, get the input from all the stakeholders that are going to be ultimately looking at financial reports, or tying into you need to tie in their information. What would help them do their job better, or what would you need from them to help them do their job better? So once you've made a decision that you want to move forward with Sage Intacct, probably one of the major components you're going to have to do is justify the cost, which then ties into, should you be creating a budget in advance? What should that budget take a look like? We don't find people anymore are necessarily thinking in those terms, and that's the right way to think. You shouldn't be thinking about budget, you should be thinking about return. If you're going to invest in a solution, you need to get a return on it. If you get the return on it, then the cost justifies itself. If you can't see a return on it, or you can't justify a return on it, then what's the point? Even if you have the budget for it, why spend money you don't need to spend? If your current solution is working, why change it? So we don't really recommend people look at budget, and most people don't, and I think that's a wise choice. Most people say, what's the return going to be? What savings are they going to realize? And that's really what you should be looking at. So if you can increase efficiency, if you have, for instance, an AP clerk and spends an entire Thursday, every Thursday is AP day, real story I just recently heard, spent their entire Thursday working only on AP input. It's now takes her about an hour Thursday morning. You open up 20% of your day. What savings does that realize? What does that mean for you? What can that person then do? And perhaps whether it's you don't need to hire a part-time employee to do something, or you can repurpose that part-time employee to something else, whatever the case may be. But what savings are you going to realize? That's what you should be thinking about. That's how you should be weighing it against what the cost of the software is going to be, not creating a budget in advance and hoping you get the return.
My name is Sarah Fallon. I am the Accounts Payable Coordinator here at Meadow Haven. It's a CCRC community, so we have tons of personal care, independent living residents, our healthcare center residents, and then in the center of kind of all of it, we have what's called our Resident Life Center, and that's where our business office people are centered in. I would easily say, for an AP perspective, from my own perspective, we're probably looking anywhere between 2 to 3 hours a day that's saving me at this point, just from the simplicity standpoint of the system, the access that we now have to the system, instead of when I get asked a question from a vendor of, what's this payment status? Where is this? Why do you have this invoice? Instead of logging into 3 different platforms to pull information, to go verify against our bank, it's all right there in my system. I can see it, I can click it and go, here you go. Have a great day, thanks so much, and move on with my day. I would say it easily saves us between AP side 2 to 3 hours per day.
But you are going to have to get approval to spend the money. So the question comes up, what does this cost? And it will vary depending on the size of your organization, the complexity of your accounting staff. But it's safe to say if you have 4 to 5 full-blown accounting users in your department, you could expect to pay $30,000 annual subscription for Sage Intacct. Perhaps could go up if you want additional features. I think you could look at that as a base point, though. As far as implementation goes, the same rule would apply, but I think it's fair to say you would be spending about $50,000 to $60,000 in implementation, with the understanding that that's going to have you configured correctly, that's going to have you trained correctly, that's going to have you set up correctly, and then you're going to be ready to go. We like to think of ourselves as if we did our job properly and we uncovered all your needs properly, you really shouldn't need to call us at all. So the implementation costs truly are one-time costs that you would have to bear. Which then comes back to what cost savings you're going to realize. Are you going to be able to justify this cost with what the return on investment is going to be? So again, take a look at some of the processes that you can remove. If you can take 25% off of somebody's plate and have that person do another more meaningful task, or a task that's more suited to their needs, what kind of savings you're going to realize for that, or what sort of things can you later do to increase efficiencies. So you look at that $30,000 on an annual basis, it might seem like a lot, but if you're taking a look at that's probably less than half of a full-time equivalent, it doesn't seem so much.